What are your memories of the big game as a player, and this week, do you find yourself thinking about those moments?
I have. I've spent a lot of time thinking about them. My first memory was in 1979. I went up there as a high school student that was being recruited by Stanford and got a chance to watch the game. It was a heck of a game. Ended on the last play was a pass play to the end zone, and Ronnie Cochimilio knocked the ball away. That was probably the first real moment I spent seeing the difference between winning and losing. I mean, it's euphoria on one side and it's crushing defeat on the other. And so it's always been that way for me. And then my freshman year winning meant a lot. Losing my sophomore year was a crushing blow. But then 5 laterals and a trombone later, my junior year was special. And then it was nice my senior year because we played there in Stanford. My second to last opportunity to play in that stadium. I eventually played in that stadium for the East-West Shrine game as well. So a lot of good, a lot of positive memories.
Ron, so I believe the last time you were at the big game, or the first time was last year since you were a player.
Yep.
So now being a part of it from a different perspective, what's that like being the GM of this team leading them into the big game?
Well, Joaquin, it's special. It really is. Just to be involved again from another perspective does give me an opportunity to see what it looks like on this side of the preparation. I've had a few guys have asked me what did it mean to you. And it meant a lot. It really did, because it's great to have a natural rivalry, one especially so close, one that has so many different similarities. In terms of we're public, they're private, and it just goes from there. And it's really, I think it's really neat. I really do. I think it's a cool thing.
Ron, what are some of the traditions that you've gone about reinstating since you've accepted this role?
Wow, traditions, that's an interesting thing just because I really haven't had a lot of time to think about it. I mean, I've been very busy, I really have. That's something I have to think about, but I do know one thing we've tried to do is reach out to a lot of our former alums, talk to those guys, invite them back as much as we can. One of the first things we did was we had an event where we brought a lot of the former players back, reception up here, and one of the things that was really neat about it was one of the guys that helped recruit me, I hadn't seen since he graduated, Ronnie Hill. Ron Hill was very instrumental in me coming here to Cal, and getting a chance to see him was a big thrill for me. So, there are a lot of things I'd like to see if we can get them going again, just because, one of the things that people always talk about is what is the student-athlete's experience like? And, I'm hoping we can create a very positive experience for our guys that, later on down the line in their lives, they can look back very fondly on their situation here at Cal.
Have you decided whether Justin's going to be back as Cal's head coach next season?
Wow, that's a left field question. We didn't talk about the big game, so I'm not going to even address that, okay?
How have you experienced the evolution of this rivalry, and how important is it to just be preserving this tradition amidst so many changes in college football?
I think it's very important. I really appreciate the ACC working with us to give us that opportunity. So this is a recurring game. The rivalry is very important. The appreciation of who Stanford is also important to me as well. It is kind of that brotherly love. You love them to hate them. You want to beat them, you don't want to hurt them. And that's really how you treat your brothers. Do appreciate the fact that they stood up for us when it was time to move to the ACC. So it's a special rivalry. Got a lot of tremendous respect for who they are as a university as well and a program. Really have a lot of respect for Andrew as well. I know Andrew's working very hard to do everything he can to try and help make things relevant, just like I'm trying to do here at Cal. And so I think that really helps. I really do. I think it's important that guys of Andrew's ilk and ability and myself as well come back to the universities and celebrate this. This is very special, and I said earlier, it never gets old sitting there. There's a tremendous sense of pride knowing that it's been here for a while, and we hope to be able to keep it for a while longer.
Well, please take me back to your freshman year, because I think there have been a few stories written about the 5 laterals and the trombone, but in a lot of ways, the 80 game was a much bigger upset. What do you remember about that game going into it and after?
Well, I do remember it was a big upset. I knew it was an opportunity for us to kind of throw them off kilter a little bit, as they were bowl eligible. We're trying to get to be bowl big thing for us was it wasn't a big time upset. You know, they had a good young quarterback that was terrorizing everybody else, and so to be able to come out on top on that, I think was probably the biggest excitement. You know, it'd been a tough year being, you know, 2-8 at the time, and we knew, you know, that this could really make a lot of things better, and it did. And so, if there was one thing I do remember, it was the excitement of winning that game.
Ron, in the past, you've talked about how you had a chance to not only take in your first big game being a Stanford visitor, but you got a chance to visit with Cal on that
Yes.
game day too, and you saw a special fire in that team. You went on to play for the team, and you've been a passionate supporter of the program along with your wife Stephanie over the years. What is it about Cal that you love? What are some of those things?
You know, it's a different place, first of all. It's got a different standard, and we have to uphold that standard because we are the University of California school. And that's the way I look at it. You know, to your point, being at the big game in '79 and really seeing, you know, the depths of despair when you lose and the excitement and thrill when you win was amazing. And I did get caught up in that euphoria. I really did. And it's funny because when I walked out of the Cal locker room, the winners locker room, you know, I had this look on my face, and my mother just looked at me and said, "Oh, I know where you're going to go to school now." And it was evident. And from that point, it's been a love affair for me, and I really do feel very fortunate to have gone here because so much of what I've got in life, I learned here. You know, this to me is what I call real life education. You know, it's interesting because everybody talks about, you know, the birthplace of free speech. And to me, it's something special, and freedom of speech is one of our, you know, one of our first Bill of Rights. I mean, it's the First Amendment. That's how special it is. And for it to be featured here at Cal, I think is a special thing. And that's why every time something crazy goes on over free speech, I don't understand it. Because it's a privilege, and it's something that should be held very highly. The ability to speak your mind in a peaceful manner. I think that's important.
Ron, Jared came over here. Jared came out, so get a lot of hype when he came in here. How has he maybe lived up to what you expected the way he's playing as a freshman?
Well, I will say he has lived up to the expectations that we've had, and in some cases he's gone beyond. You know, he plays with a maturity and a poise that you don't normally see in a freshman, and he has that. So he's got a lot of those abilities. He's got a tremendous skill set. He's got great awareness. He's got natural pocket presence. His spatial awareness is exceptional. He has the ability to climb the pocket, throws off platform very well. I mean, it's one of those things that you feel very fortunate to have a young man like this that you have some very capable coaches working with as well. You know, I think Brian and Coach Rolovich are a great tandem and they're great resources for him. And that's why I think part of it is he's adapted so quickly because of the people that are around him right now working with him. I think very early on he showed his teammates, you know, how much he cares and how important it is, and that's been exciting.
And how confident are you that you guys will be able to keep him there?
Very confident in what we've done. We've been very fortunate. You know, we've had some very good alumni engagement. You know, and some people that are stepping up and wanting to make the commitment to the university to help us. You know, and again, just, you know, this isn't just about the football program. It's about the university. I mean, players like Jaron, great players that you have come help elevate the profile of the university. Sports is quickly becoming the front porch to a lot of these, you know, college experiences for the students. And what we're trying to do is create a culture and atmosphere of sustaining winning. And you know, so this game is very pivotal for us. It really speaks a lot to where we can go going forward. If we can win this football game and then get ready next week and pull one off there, that elevates our opportunities to go to a super high quality bowl other than the CFP. So we're working towards everything we can to be beyond all.
Ron, following up on a question you were asked earlier, I'm wondering if you appreciate the big game even more now because of the fact that tradition seems to be slipping away in college sports. I mean,
Yeah.
UCLA's thinking about not playing in the Rose Bowl, and the Pac-12 is gone as we know it. How does this is this the final frontier of tradition?
I think it is to a degree. I think the thing that we've got to do is we've got to, as schools, as universities, we've got to look at, that was a great question asked about the traditions. We've got to find ways to preserve them. I mean, think about it, the Conference of Champions no longer exists. All those legacies, those things that guys were creating and doing for the Pac back in the day, whether it be 8, 10, or 12, those things are just memories now, and they're not added on to. That to me is that's a crime as far as I'm concerned in college athletics, to allow something like that to happen. And for something like that to be as dismissed as it has been. I struggle with that just because, there was a tremendous tradition, tremendous history. Playing in the Pac-10 back in the day for me, it meant something. It really truly did. I mean, there's a lot of guys that when it all came tumbling down, man, we were crushed about it. So these natural rivalries that are there, they're important. And you see it on the East Coast in the SEC and the ACC. They're still trying to keep those rivalries going as well. South Carolina, North Carolina, or South Carolina, Clemson. Those games matter. So that's a big deal. And I'd love to be able to see and hope that we can preserve as many of those as possible. So we continue that. I mean, it's kind of great that Notre Dame being independent, they have certain rivalries that they always try to make sure they play as well. You watch them play USC, or you watch them play Army or Navy or something like that. That's a big deal. So I hope we can continue to keep those traditions and as many of them we can together.
Given that, how proud are you about the fact that Cal and Stanford have sort of maintained this partnership?
I'm very proud of it. I really am. And when I first got here, one of the things I talked about is with them, partnering with them, we've got to own the Bay Area, and that's something that we really need to continue to focus on, like we're trying to do. I mean, this is one of these games that we'd love to have as many Cal Stanford folks out there at the game this week, and really make this the type of game that deserves not just local exposure, but national exposure. That's what I'd love to see created.
I run all the way in the back. You played a lot of big games in your career, from when you were first born to the NFL. How is big game different than any other rivalry maybe in the NFL?
Because we are so intertwined. We really are. I mean, if you look at where we're located geographically, it's about as close as it can get. You look at what we both stand for academically, them being one of the finer private institutions, and us being the #1 public institution in the United States, that's a very important thing for us. So we're very competitive as far as that's concerned. We're both here at the gateway to Silicon Valley, to San Francisco with the AI boom that's going on right now. We're both feeder programs for those students. That's why it's important. That's why it's important that we continue to elevate who we are, so that the finest students in the world come here to the Bay Area. To me, that's what it's about. I mean, this is for every reason why. This is to me the rivalry that matters, and it's always been that way. I grew up in the Monterey Bay, and the Seaside Monterey High School rivalry used to be a tremendous one as well, and that's kind of going away a little bit too, because they no longer play in the same leagues. I mean, it's this movement that's going on throughout the country, and it's just I think the more traditions we can stick to, the more homey these things feel.
Go to Matt Moreno on the telephone for Coach Rivera. Matt, he's ready. What's your list?
Obviously, we saw last year kind of the passion that comes out in these types of games. There's so much changing in college football. Players changing from year to year. You don't have guys that play this 3 or 4 times, but what does it say? Kind of how unique is it to college athletics that you can still have that passion in a game like this, and I'm sure we'll see that come out Saturday.
Well, I think the big thing, more than anything else, Matt, is that it's because it's important, it's significant, and it's something that is still growing. And if you can keep as many of these players around and get them to understand exactly what it means, I think that's a big deal, because it's bigger than sports. It really is. It means a lot beyond the game itself. And as I mentioned earlier, it's because of where we are geographically and what we stand for, both of us. and who we are and who we can be. I think that's one of the really important things that we all have to understand. And the neat thing too is all of our sports, like us, they have over 30 Olympic sports, and all of our sports get into it, whether it be basketball or women's lacrosse or field hockey or something like that. It's an important game for our student body and for our athletic departments.
Larry?
Ron, Cal's got a pretty great linebacking tradition. You're a big part of that. Hardy Nickerson, Ken Harvey, Jarrett Willard. What do you think of Cade and how he's upholding that standard?
I think Cade's done a tremendous job with who he is. I really do. He's a unique young player. He's got a tremendous skill set, and he plays fast. And most important thing though is he plays smart. And that's one of the things that I've told these guys that your superpower is you're smart. Because I learned this very early in my NFL career that it's a little saying that I got from our strength coach, and that is the strong may defeat the weak, but the smart defeat the strong. And so I've tried to echo that here, so these guys understand, that something does separate you when you're at university, and I think you got to take advantage of it. So he does, and I think he's got a chance eventually to be a good pro.
Ron, as a kind of a big game encyclopedia, what is your specific balance of letting guys kind of calibrate themselves in their own process in order to get to this game, and what's the other balance of maybe offering your own personal nuggets about what this rivalry has been?
I think it's important that they hear from us, guys that have played in this, and that it means something too. But what's been really cool though was hearing it from the alums. And whether they've played or not, just a Cal alum talking about what it meant. And I'm very fortunate that I was part of the 82 team. And so, whenever I've been somewhere and people start asking about the play and start talking about the play, it's really a tremendous thing. And you listen to them talk about, here we are, we're both got winning records, we both have an opportunity to be over the top of the other one and to win it, and win it in the fashion we did, that was pretty special. So I think sharing my experiences, whenever a guy asks, has been pretty cool. And at the same time, hearing some other folks' experiences, especially the fans, the alums that are the fans. It's really neat to talk with a couple that have talked about, they were here at the big game and they had the kids with them. And, and they tell me how their kids reacted, and because of that game, they became lifelong Cal fans. That's pretty powerful.
And then you mentioned your evolving relationship with Andrew. Do you talk to him at all this week, or is it you'll see him on the field?
Oh no, we talk, and we'll talk again on Thursday. And knowing Andrew, he'll have something quick, and hopefully I can respond just as quick. But I know Christian McCaffrey has said he has to talk slow when he's around me. So. It's that kind of rivalry, and I always tell Christian, don't forget I'm the one who chose you, so, which I think was really neat to have those types of relations. It really is, it's special.
What have you been saying, what have you and Christian been saying to each other?
Oh, any chance, we'll have a little something, so it's cool to be around him, and like I said, I was fortunate enough to be able to draft a player of his ability, so. And that's one of the really neat things about how many great players have come out of this rivalry as well. And especially you talk about the John Elways of the world, and the Aaron Rodgers and the Jared Goffs. I mean, there's been some very special players that have played in this game and have had the chance to go on to the NFL.
Anything else? Thanks, Ron.